because we live in a of pull up and then ask, excuse me, where does this road, where does it lead to? A male driver will be driving, and the wife will say, why don't you just let us park and ask, where does this road? I know what I'm doing. A male driver will carry on and getting lost and lost and lost and lost. Because of the ego. Amen. I know what I'm doing. Some of us here today, where we find ourselves today, spiritually speaking, matrimonially speaking, some of us, as we listen today, where we find ourselves, do you know that it could be because at a particular time we failed to ask. You see, ask. Because when you get to the crossroad, you are at the junction of confusion. Where do I, or simply go back? You won't know unless you look, you ask. And when you ask for the right thing. In this path, at the junction of confusion, ask for the ancient path. Now the problem is this, before we go, before we leave that verb, ask. As a youth, 21st century youth, remove the Christian from it, but just put 21st century youth. They ask, but they don't like to ask the older people. They ask their peers. And they believe that whatever their peers have said must carry value. I've seen them doing it. Yeah, and if they are doing it, it must be right. And when you say, but this thing you are doing, well, that's how you used to do it. In your own days, in your own time. But this is, you know. Now, add the word Christians. The Christian, 21st century Christians, okay, and the ancient path. The advantage you have today is that it's an ancient path, but contextually, as it was a good for people like Joseph, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and so on and so forth. So it is good for you when you contextualize it. It's ancient, but relevant. Ancient, but generationally relevant. Amen. The next one is, what do you do with it when you have what's the first one? It says stand, ask, then haven't found it out. What do? The last, walk. Yalak. Yalak means to go, to walk, to depart, to proceed, to move, to leave. Then, another meaning. Yalak gives or carries the sense of manner of life. Manner of life as Christian youths. If we must walk, if we must live, if we must proceed, we can only do so by faith. That's why In 2 Corinthians 5:7, New King James Version, it says, for we walk by faith, not by sight. In NIV, it says, we live by faith, not by sight. You see, one says we walk, and the other one says we live, because the word gives the same sense. The way you walk is the way you live. We walk by faith, not by sight. We live by faith, not by sight. As Christians, you are Christians. You live by faith, not by sight. Why? What's the difference? The difference is this. Sight considers temporal. Faith considers eternal. And that is why the author of Hebrews put it this way. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him earnestly. Now, without faith, it is impossible. Read the epistle to the Hebrews carefully. You will see that the author of Hebrews chooses his word carefully. He uses his word carefully. And the word impossible, each time he uses it, you will see that it is absolutely impossible. Impossible. When he says that it is impossible for God to lie, can God lie? Impossible. Anyone who has tasted the gift of Holy Spirit, who has tasted the gift of age to come, and so if it turns back, to come back is impossible. Then I will either